take a minute and share with us. It's worth your time. I say what's on my mind. I just wanna make a change in your life. Take hands with mine too. We can rebuild and true conversations with Dr. Creative.
Hello, everybody out in Facebook, YouTube world. I sound like my group. Anyway, hey guys, it's so good to be back on a live. It's been a minute. It's been a complete month. I've taken a month off of social media just to really dig into my workout, to dig into my schoolwork. Not as if social media has been a distraction, but it does take time to plan this show, and it takes time to try to give it your all. So I'm just happy to be back. And I think tonight's topic, as I always say, is going to be so good. Now, I have a really special guest with me today. Her name is Precious, and she'll be on to talk about this topic with me. This is an extremely deep topic. This topic can really ruffle some feathers, and it can make people feel extremely uncomfortable. But I want this to be a place where we come, we talk, we have great conversation, and we allow ourselves to be real with each other. So I also want to preface the video by saying this has nothing to do with my family, nothing to do with Precious's family. It has to do with an environment in which we was raised and that we've seen with our own eyes, or who knows, maybe she has experienced some things. I have seen some things, and I know what goes on within my family. But I'm not speaking on behalf of my family. So I do have to put that out there before anyone in my family sees a video and emails me or calls me or texts me. This has nothing to do with you guys. This has to do with creating a conversation about something that has been going on for years. And this is not just a Black thing. Though it happens in the Black community, it happens in all communities. And through conversations and research and things like that, though it's sad, it's true, we all deal with some of the same things. So I also move forward and say that I got this, I came up with this topic just from talking on the phone with some of my family members, and just hearing some of the things that's going on within my family. And then also talking to one of my really, really good friends, and she was sharing some information about what's going on within her family. And I was just like, wow, I've heard that before. Wow, I've dealt with that before. And then we just started talking about trauma. We started talking about things that some people that around us went through, some people dealt with. It just got really, really deep, and I just felt like this would be a great first conversation to have after my little break. So before we get started, I want you guys to do something that I normally don't do, but I think it's important for me to do, because why not? Hey, it is what it is. Let me see where it's at. Here it is. Follow me at Dr. Creative on all those social media platforms. And then make sure you guys share right now. This is going to be a great conversation. So I'm going to start off with a little, oh, wow. I guess so. Let's talk. I don't know. Epic. So, for me, I've seen a lot of, there has been a lot of sexual abuse that happens within the community. And it's something that is rarely addressed. This is not even the tip of the iceberg within families. And it goes from child molestation. It goes from rape. It goes from being young. Wow. It goes from being young and being um, sexually interested in things around you and then trying out things. And then when you are in those predicaments, you either have fear to say something about it or you're told not to say something about it. Before we go into the conversation, I want to bring on Precious. Um, I met her a few years. I met her a long time ago. She's always been kind. She's currently in her PhD program, and she is like the bomb diggities. I absolutely enjoy and love having conversations with her. So before we start talking about all the deep stuff, I'd rather have a professional woman who works within the health field and also has great life experiences to share with us along with the conversation. So why don't you guys welcome my friend Precious to the conversation.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Kreative. Hey.
How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm good. I know I probably didn't do a good introductory, but I would love for you to introduce yourself professionally or however you want to the people who are watching.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Precious. As Dr. Kreative mentioned, I am in my currently in my PhD studies. Actually, it's in healthcare leadership and education. I have 1 year left. I am a registered nurse by trade. I work as a case manager. So I've been doing nursing for about 20 years now. And my motto along with this talk is Precious Breaking Generational Curses. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So before you got on, I was talking about one of the things, which is part of the long list that I have on this phone of things to talk about. But I tapped into having to keep secrets or being told not to say something about sexual activities. So I'm going to use examples, and I don't know if you have other examples or you want to just chat about it. I'm going to make sure I keep the chat going so I can see what's going on. But for example, I know some. I'm going to keep on saying I know someone because I don't want to put anybody's business or make them feel like I'm talking about them. I know someone who was maybe around 3 years old, and their older cousin used to watch them. 3 or 4 years old. It was very vivid to them since that age to like around 6 or 7. The friend is a male, and then the older cousin actually is a female, which is something that we don't necessarily think about when it comes down to being physically abused by anybody. They always usually think that it's the man that does the offense, but in this situation, it was a female, and the female cousin will perform sexual acts with her mouth to him until he was like 6 or 7. And because that female cousin was like extremely dominant and she was extremely aggressive, he was threatened never to say anything to anybody. And then he was embarrassed because his mother is extremely aggressive and extremely known for having anger issues. And so he never told his mom, and he's a grown-ass man now and has children and everything. And he feels like he wants to chat with his mom, but he still has that fear of not talking to his mom about that situation because it's going to embarrass him. It's going to make his mom want to do something to that individual that offended him. It's also going to make him feel some type of way because his mom also has situations where she told him, "Don't you say nothing. What happens in this house stays in this house." Because I hate that line. Yep. So when he was told that, it just creates an environment where he cannot come out and say anything to his mom about what happened to him in the past. And so he feels like that situation, that offense, which it was molestation that happened to him, navigated who he actually likes today. So he is someone who doesn't really mess with women no more. Because of his offense from that woman. So I would love to see what you feel about that? Like, it's a lot. I remember when I was hearing that, I was just like, this is a lot of information. But I was very happy that he had enough faith to chat with me and know that. And he approved me talking about it, but I would never put his name in there. So yeah.
That story is like a lot of stories in a lot of households where you don't talk about what happens in your household because we have this image that we are trying to uphold to those around us. But once you hold on to that type of trauma, I know we talked the other day about generational trauma that follows you throughout your whole life. So now you find yourself in situations and doing things that you thought you never would do. And I can empathize with that friend because I myself too was molested at a young age. I had the avenues to tell my mom. My mom was a single parent. My dad was in and out of jail, rest his soul. But I didn't tell anyone. And I didn't tell anyone until I was 19, 20 years old. But I could go back through my life and say, hey, I was running the streets. I dropped out of high school. I did this, that, and the other because of the offense that happened to me. So again, I know lots of people, a lot of my patients, they'll tell you that that is their story. But he has to speak up and he has to go to his mom or else he will die with that on his chest. And that is no way to live because stress will kill you. We know that. It causes high blood pressure, stroke, heart attacks. And we live with that, dying daily because we are scared to speak out against those that offend us and for the sake of our families and this image that we have to uphold, especially us as Black folk.
I'm wondering why it's like that within the Black community, because so many times you hear that same line, like, what happens in the house stays in the house, and nobody knows what goes on in this house. But nobody ever even thinks like, let's go get therapy when things happen. Like, there are things that happen that I believe that I definitely needed therapy for, that I experienced. But because of the dynamic of who my family was, like I'm from a really, both sides, my father and my mom are from really popular last names in Boston. So when you say their last names, like, oh, you're talking about Reggie. Oh, you're talking about Eileen. So when you hear my parents' name, it's like, oh, I know your mother. Oh, I know your father. I'm from Boston, so sorry if you hear my accent. And and so I had to always be careful, not just with things that I experienced, but I had to be even careful about how I acted in public, because I could never get away with anything. I always felt like I was being watched. And so on top of trauma, I'm always feeling like I'm being watched, and I just had to deal with everything myself, because my older cousins that I had to talk to, that's just what they were. They were just people who were older cousins. I couldn't talk to them. And I was the oldest of my siblings. So who could I talk to? Who can I run to? You know?
Right. And I think that now that we have these platforms and when we hear those stories, we are responsible to say, hey, you need to talk to somebody. You need to uncover those layers because there's plenty of layers. Once you have that secret, that offense against you, everything in your life revolves around that secret in one form of another. And another reason why we don't talk about it in our communities, the stigma is so real. Is, when you have that crazy uncle, quote unquote, oh, don't mind him, don't pay attention to him. No, we have cousins on top of cousins that can tell you what this uncle did, and we cannot continue to excuse those behaviors, because again, the generational curse will keep going and it'll keep going.
So here's the thing. Let's talk about that, and that goes into another topic, the incest. So let's just call this person Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe, Grandma May knows that Uncle Joe's nasty. Uncle Joe's mess with little girls. Uncle Joe's not to be left alone. Why are we allowing Uncle Joe not to be recommended for those actions and just say that he just has problems? You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it gives off like, oh, that's just Uncle Joe. Be careful. I wouldn't leave my kids around him. Why the hell do you have to say that? Like, there should be some type of intervention, some type of help for Uncle Joe so that he's not offending these kids, because there are people in families that's repetitively doing these things. You know what I mean? So I had a conversation with some friends about a situation where I found out like one person that I know was sexually offending several people that I know. And it just blew my mind. And you never really know until the person felt comfortable. At this time, I don't know, we just have a regular conversation, and then I just found out all this information, and it was all the same thing on younger girls. You know what I'm saying? So why aren't we, and what within a person makes us not want to go say something? You know?
Just fear. The fear. You know, as little kids, we know our roles as kids. You know, you said, go sit down, shut up, don't speak unless you're spoken to. So a lot of times as kids, that's within us. So we don't speak up. And a lot of parents and aunts and grandmothers, they don't understand that they stun our growth. They stun us from expressing our feelings, our emotions at a young age. So then we're quiet. We're within ourselves. And again, we're dying slowly on the inside, just trying to please that person. As kids, we want to please our parents. We want to please those that we look up to. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's one of the real reasons why we don't say anything, is because we want to please everyone.
And I feel like we don't think about what the action, what the outcome is. So people have to grow with these things throughout the years. So imagine a little boy with his mom and his dad who are married and been married all his life, but he finds out that his mother is cheating, and she says, "Don't you dare tell your father." So now he's going through his entire life with this secret about his mom, knowing that people view his mom in this light. But now he has to hold on to this lie throughout his entire adult life. Now he's a liar. Now he doesn't know how to tell the truth. Now he's also a cheater, because in his eyes it's okay. So now we're just making things go around in a circle, in a circle, in a circle. You get what I'm saying?
Right. And the cycle is vicious. It is so vicious to break those cycles when you have no one to hold accountable. Someone has to be held accountable. And I'll just be, free and speak, from the heart. I too was molested. And as I got older, my mom told me she was molested too. And then my grandmother was molested. And I had to think, like, why didn't someone say this? Why didn't grandma hash this out with her kids? Because she had daughters. Why didn't you hash it out with your daughters to say, hey, you cannot do this. You can't be around these people. So then it went from my grandmother, then it went to my mom, and then it went to me. I'm like, Mom, why didn't you say anything? I'm not saying that we can't alter our destinies, because our path is our path. I believe what God allows to happen to us, we can learn from that, and we can help the next generation, the next person to heal. But why didn't you say anything? That could have potentially kept me from going down that same path. Now, as for my teenage daughter and my daughters, you're not going anywhere. We fight, we argue. You gonna hate me. It's gonna be the end of the world. You can hate live, jump off the cliff. Look, let me take you to the cliff, because I'm not letting you do anything, because I'm responsible for you. I've come to acknowledge now. I'm responsible for you. And until you get out of my house and are able to make sound decisions for yourself, then I'll be free. Right now, I'm not free to let you go and do whatever you want to. Not in this life. Not under my watch.
Do you hear me? I have a little boy. He's 13. I don't care. Like hanging over, like spending at people's house. I'm very skeptical about that. If I don't know your parents, If I haven't seen your kids, they can stay over my house, but I'm not sure about you because I know I can walk in your room at any time of the night and see what's
Right.
going on, because that's a lot of things start in that process too. So I'm very skeptical about those things, because I dare to be the dad that's not aware about what's going on with my kid in my kid's life. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I
Right.
want to read a comment real quick. Sorry, because you're getting
Go
me.
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see what Mr. Carter says. Yes. If the fear of the adult telling you that you are the one wrong and you should be quiet, should be quiet and mind your business. Also, a fear of truth. They may not want you to know the truth about that person who is the abuser. Interesting. I have to agree. You never know. They may know something that you don't know. So that may be also a reason why they don't want to hear anything about it. Let's see what else we got going on here. Because it's a lot. We know if you call the police on a black man, even if you just for a legitimate mental disorder, could mean death. I get we try to protect people, but some things you just need to go for it. And you will also be checked for tickets, warrants, and all even as a caller. We can trust that the authorities, quote unquote, even when we are rich. He also goes on to say, Kareem, I found out my stepmom was checking with one of my homies back in the day. I gave her 48 hours. She left my dad for my friend. Whoa. That's a lot. I would love to know how you process that, because that's a lot to process. Let's see what else we got going here. Generational trauma is real as fuck, absolutely. In any case, this is the time to be feeling less. Walk into all of our fears. Speak up and ask questions and seek the truth. Absolutely. I speak on this topic all the time. We have grown. Okay, good. So, absolutely. Okay. It's interesting to see how people are going through some of the same stuff. Precious, thank you for being very transparent. I appreciate it.
You are welcome.
Um,
So let me go back to the comment that said that we don't call the police on uncles or black men, and we don't. But at the same time, I feel like we're enabling that person. And yes, we know that some of them have mental illnesses. But where do we get to the point where we don't sacrifice ourselves and our peace of mind and our mental for the next person? Now, that would be something hard for me to digest. Like the guy that molested me, he's on Facebook living it up with his family. And a couple of times I wanted to go to his page and be like, remember, hello, you living it up. But the things that I went through, the stages that I went through, you were the cause of that. But I haven't, and I'm not going to do that because my healing is as such. And I can share on platforms like these to say, hey, we can overcome this, but it takes. I just thank God that I'm one of the ones that has a strong mind that can process this. Most can't. So that's why you see the people strung out on drugs. You see the people on the corner because they haven't learned to process it. And that is their way of processing it, is through whatever substance or whatever lifestyle. And I can't blame them. I cannot fault them. I can't.
I have to be real, because I feel like I'm lying, and I hate lying. I took a vow 2011 never to lie again. Okay. So this is something I never do. Anyway, so that person earlier was me. I was just trying to,
Be free. Be free.
All right. And I'm very appreciative of you guys, like, being honest. And I'm grown. I'm 33 years old. I've done the work, not at that moment, but after that moment. And my fear, my mom's gonna watch this, so I'm gonna have a conversation after this, and it's gonna be very, very hard for me to have this conversation with her because she knows exactly who I'll be talking about. But I would never forget that moment. I would never forget her putting her hands in my pants and putting her mouth on my penis. I would never forget that. And that happened so many times. And I think that awakened a sexual yearning for me at an early age.
Mm-hmm.
It led to me grinding with all kinds of people because before you have sex, you're grinding, honey. You're in high school, you're in middle school, you're grinding, you're trying to suck on a titty and all kinds of stuff when you're young, and so I'm just so anxious. That's the only thing I can honestly think about when I was young. All I wanted to do was be nasty. And it led to, you humping on your cousins, all kinds of stuff, which in our community, they think it's funny. Oh, humping cousins. There's a name for it. That's not okay.
No.
Like, it's not okay. But it leads you to all of these things. And then as I grow older, I have a fear of like completely giving myself to somebody because I feel like I'll be getting used. And so for me, I think a lot of my trauma from back then has definitely followed me in different areas of my life. Though I'm doing okay, I'm considered successful. Mentally, I have a lot of things that I deal with, and that's something I had to talk through with my counselor, with my therapist, because I didn't know it bothered me so much because so many times I'm hearing like, you better not say nothing. I shared this information with one of my really close cousins, and she was like, "Don't say nothing to your mother because your mother will fucking kill her." I'm sorry, I'm swearing, but that's what she said. And I was like, I'm sure that she would kill her. And I didn't want to start no drama because my biggest fear was being a part of that drama. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, it feels good. I'm sorry, y'all, for trying to go in circles, but I really mentally had to prepare myself to even say anything like that. It's just not something. Once again, I'm already programmed not to say anything. I come from a preaching family. My mom preaches. My granddaddy was a bishop. My aunt's a pastor. All this stuff. I come from a church family. So for me, being a PK, I absolutely know what it means to shut up and put on a smile and say, "Yes, God, hallelujah." And you would think I'm fine. I can sing you a song. I can shout. I'll play the drums, and you think I'm fine. But that's so embedded in me. As you get older, you learn about different techniques. You go through education. You take classes in therapy, counseling, and you learn like, oh crap, Malachi, you're really jacked up. You really got a lot of things going on. So it's even just today talking about this, it was a lot. You know what I'm saying?
And that's another thing that I wanted to address. Because we are faith-based. All of us Black people, we are churches. We need to stop putting Jesus on everything. We have to process this, or that's the devil, that's the evil spirit. Yes, we understand that, but teach me how to heal. How do we talk about this in church? When we have family and friends Sunday, when we're having the month where we're talking about, how come this is not one of the issues being spoken at in church? That's why a lot of people are in your prayer line.
Yep.
That is why. Unhealed trauma. So my hope is for churches to speak on these issues, because some of these things can't get prayed away. No, some of us we need medication after all these years, because we've had nervous breakdowns, we have anxiety, we have depression, we have mood disorders, we have multiple personality disorders. For people that experience rape traumatically, that left themselves to deal with the offense at the time, that's how they have multiple personalities. So yeah, we pray it away. No, we need to process this. We need to talk about this, and we really need to heal. When I'm
listening.
I want to be some transparent some more, but
keep it real.
So I myself and my husband, I'm gonna read this little piece of a poem that I had wrote when I was sitting in church trying to understand why I would step outside my marriage after I hated it. I hated it. I hated to see the deacons and the bishops, the known people in church, in the pulpit preaching, yet I knew that they were cheating on their wives. And it happened to be with, one of my ex sister-in-laws, and I hated him. And I found myself in that situation. And I said, Precious, how did you find yourself here? What made you do that? So I was sitting in church, and when I write my poems, I write off the top of my head, and I sat down and I wrote, from the time I was molested, a spirit of sexual sin within me was manifested, robbing me and my body that belonged to Christ. The innocent that I had was sacrificed. And that was it. And I couldn't finish writing the poem. Fast forward, my grandmother passes away. We had a repast. And this guy came up to me and said, do you know who I am? And I said, no. He told me who he was. And this was the guy that molested me when I was 7, 8 years old. And I said, okay. After I processed that day, I was able to go back and finish that poem. That was where the disconnect was. And I had to process through that. So here I am, 7, 8 years old, losing my virginity at 12, running away, in and out of foster care. I married at a young age. And here I am with this offense against my husband because of this trauma that I never learned to do. I didn't even know where it came from. So, and I had to process that with my husband. I had to process that with my kids. I had to process that with my church family, my friends. And it was some of the lowest times of my life. Low. And I had to process that. That was when I was 28. I'm 39 now. And I still deal with it. Those thoughts, people watch pornography, things like that. It stems from that when I said that spirit of sexual sin is there. When we were talking about you wanted to hump on everything, that promiscuity is there. But like I said, I'm so grateful that I have a strong mindset to want to have process all of that, and I'm okay. So I can teach my daughter, look, listen, don't marry too young. If you got some stuff with you, your baggage, you deal with that baggage. Don't drag nobody into your crap. And yeah, and next Friday I'll be married 19 years. So, we get through life. We get through this life, but it takes something, and you got to put in the work. You got to put in the work.
And that, thank you for sharing that. That's real. And so I haven't seen my offender in my adult life at all. She just like disappeared off the face of this earth. And I'm scared what I would do if I was to see her. I'm not sure because I'm a little cuckoo in the brain a little bit. And so I just want to do something a little quick. And I just don't know exactly what I would do. But I think that I would want to ask her why. Why strip someone from their innocence at that age and for so many years? Let me read this comment. I thought was pretty interesting. Well, it happened to my younger sister, and she got strung out on drugs and had to have a strong mind. You have to have a strong mind, and healing begins with you. Thank God, Precious, being an example of a strong-minded queen. Stay strong.
Bless you.
For you.
But my question to you, Dr. Creative, if you never saw your offender again, are you okay with not getting your question why answered?
Well, I'm okay now. I think that if the opportunity presented itself, I would definitely say something. But I'm good. It's gonna sound weird, but I learned a lesson from it.
Yeah.
It made me extremely strong and really aware of my surroundings. Also aware of how I treat people, because I never I never want to end up in a situation where I'm the person that people may think that I'm offending somebody. So that means from where I hug people at church, the way that I talk or text a person, all that. I'm very critical about how I speak to people. When I call you boo, what context am I calling you boo in? Because boo is a term of endearment. So I'm like, what's up, boo? How you doing? But it depends. You gotta be careful, because I realized when I said it to some people, they really thought it was something else. You know what I mean? So you have a whole bunch of things that I've been very fortunate as I grew up to be very smart about, because I never want to be a bad taste in anybody's mouth because of anything sexual. Even when I had my little fast ass stage, like I would just be like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" That's always what I would ask, because before people got smart about asking for consent, I've always been a guy like, "Is this, it's something you want to do?" And so I was talking with one of my friends. So I'm what they call a serial dater. A serial dater, I don't know if it's a real term, but I think I came up with that.
Explain.
So I've been in a relationship since I was literally from 16, but real relationships since I was 18. And I had 5 relationships, and they've been back to back, only 2 or 3 weeks in between all 5 of those relationships, right? And this is, and I believe that me being in those relationships was a way of me feeling like I'm safe. And I didn't take the time to truly know myself, and I was scared to be in a predicament where I could be offensive to somebody, because when you're out here in these streets, I'm learning, being single for about to be a year in November. It's so many things that can go wrong. So many things that can go wrong, and I feel like my name is the only thing that I have, and I do not want to ruin my name. And so I try to be very careful, because I've been hurt within those relationships, and I know what that can do to an individual. So I think from my past situations, now remember, there's some things that dragged from that first experience.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a safety net for me to be in a relationship. So yes, I was a serial dater, because I'll see somebody, I don't care if you didn't like me, you're going to be mine. And that's my mindset, which is actually a turn on to a lot of people, because they feel like, oh, but he just really pressured me. Yeah, that's, and that for me, once I get you, I got you, and I'm not thinking about nobody else. And so it took this year, almost year in November, of being single to really figure out all the trauma that I dealt with in between, and all the things I dealt with in a relationship, and how I was like bipolar personality, because in the house I'm going through hell. When I walk outside of the doors, hi, how are you? Yeah, oh, I love this person so much. You are the best. Oh, we're wonderful. We're great. And what I'm realizing, whatever I move into next, I cannot be that person, because that's not reality. We're not in a good mood right now. Pissing me off, and we need some space.
Right.
And that's okay, because what I realized from my Aunt Yvonne, who's been married for over 20 years, she'll get mad at her husband, and she'll let us know she's mad, and she ain't messing with him until next week. But then they'll have time, and they'll talk about it, and they move on. But they have a healthy relationship, because what they have that I obviously did not have was communication.
Yeah. Right.
Because I was afraid to speak up, because I was okay with keeping secret. I was okay with holding in my feelings, because my feelings was not important. You know what I'm saying? How I feel, I rather process that. I'm just processing it in my head before I let it out. That's a lie. You're afraid to speak up, and you're afraid how that person's going to handle it, because you're afraid of the backlash that's going to come from it.
Yep. Going back to that little kid, that their voice is cut off within them.
Mm-hmm.
Your default system, and we default back to what we know best, and that's to be quiet. Let us process it how we're going to process it. We're not really processing it. It's just building, and we're not healing.
Yeah.
And how do you heal from that? How do you come from that? What steps are you taking? I'm just saying, for anyone in general, once that offense, once you deal with it, because it's layers, and you have to heal at every layer that you uncover. Every new revelation that comes to you, you have to process that, and you have to heal from that.
But pressure, that's the key. Do people got time for that? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just keeping it real. Like this is why people don't hate, people don't heal, because that's what comes in. Ugh, I ain't got time for all that shit. Like, I'll be all right. That's what we always go back to. I'll be all right. Black people don't do this.
They don't want to put in the work.
But I've learned it's important to put in that work, because the amount of peace that I have right now is like no other. I've never experienced. I did not know who Malachi was until 3 months after my breakup. First, I didn't know I cared so much. I didn't even know I had emotions, because I used to hold those things in. So to see me like crying and boo-hooing of a thought of a person, I've never been that person. I'm always cheerful. You see me, goofy, sarcastic. Ow, that's how I am. But just feel like I'm an individual. So then I had to start unpacking everything. And it takes time. And shit, I'm still working on things. And whoever gets me next, I'm still working on things. I'm forever going to be working on things and hurt, because it's an ongoing process. You can never say that you completely healed from something, because it's always a part of your identity.
Yeah. And are you going to go the long haul with me to help me process? And that has been something that I took for granted in the beginning. But as I get older, when you have someone that will go the mile with you, to help you deal with that, you better take it, because a lot of people ain't putting up with that. It's 2020. It's too much stuff going on in 2020. Yep. You'll be lonely, and nothing wrong with being lonely, being by yourself, but you don't have to be if you just learn to process your.
That's the key right there. And it does suck being lonely. Okay.
But that's okay. Yourself. See, and I got married at 20. What did I know at 20? I was just getting into the church.
Yeah.
Getting my little GED from dropping out, running the streets. What did I know about me? And that's another thing that I had to process. Relationship. Who am I?
Yeah.
What do I want to do? What am I bringing? So all of that, I had to think, like, I'll be 40 next year. What have I done in the last 10 years of my life? What have I done since I to knowledge of myself, loving who I am? How I worked on myself? How am I taking the time out for myself besides getting my toes and my nails done? No. How am I investing into my spirit? You know, my affirmations, things like that.
That's crazy. That's so crazy. That's so crazy. I am going to keep it real.
It's heavy.
I'm extremely afraid about the conversation that's going to come from this. Because yeah, I am afraid, because then I'm going to have to unpack further than what I've already unpacked.
Well, your time has come to heal.
Yeah.
Your time has come, and you have to walk in it.
And you know what's funny? And we're just talking, you know, homeboy to homegirl, you know. So I will not. And I did it. I'm doing it before when I planned on, because I'm very calculated. But I planned on talking to my mom about this before I entered into anything else. Because oh my God, she's on. I'm gonna read that comment in a second. Because I didn't want to enter into this new thing, because this new thing, precious, this new thing is the last thing. Do you hear what I'm saying? Right. So because it's the last thing, I want to make sure that I'm able to enter into this last thing with everything off my chest. I want to have everything laid out. I want to know that Yes, my mom does know that I went through this. Yes, my family does know that this person offended me. Um, yes, and so my sister. Let me see. 1 second. Let me read my mom's comment because I don't know what she says and I didn't read it. Okay. Eileen Hollins. She goes. I always say if you're too slow, you just may blow a good relationship. If you're too fast, it just may not last. If you take your time, things turn out just fine. But it's also all right to give up a good fight. And I don't know what she's talking about. She hasn't watched it, so she's just saying her usual riddles. When
More
you
power.
get done, watch it from the beginning, honey.
You silly.
And have you heard of anything called restorative justice?
Restorative justice.
Yes.
In what context?
It's like my family celebrates Kwanzaa, and so with that you go into a circle, and we celebrate Christmas too, but we're very like trying new things.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second, I gotta get my charger. Hold on. For my computer dies. All right, so are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. So a restorative justice is like when you get together with family members and you guys all sit in a circle and you respectfully listen to each other. You talk about these topics, you put them all out there, and you don't say anything. And after you get done, each person addresses the thing that hits them the most. And so you sit in a circle, and it's a way of healing family trauma. Because when you find out, when you start talking about those things in the family setting, that most people have those same experiences, which is kind of what happened in my family. We sat down, we talked with a couple of cousins, and then boom, all this stuff was going on. And I was like so lost that people that I love had to deal with certain things. You get what I'm saying? So these are conversations that I think we need to figure out like a resolve. Like, how do we go back and fix this trauma? Because we can do all we can right now, sharing our stories and talking about how there's secrets within families, but that's not going to help a person who's actually in that place right now. How do you fix that right now? What do we do as helpers, as leaders? You're in getting your PhD for leadership. I'm in my PhD getting for leadership. And how do we lead a generation of kids who are also going through the same thing? What would you say are some of the steps? If you was to have a model, what would that model be? Because I know you know what I'm talking about.
So when you I love to mentor. I do a lot of behind the scenes mentoring. And as I spend time with people, my patients, whoever, I dig a little bit. I try to be open. I always tell them I'm a safe place for you. You are safe with me. Your stories are safe with me. I honor you in your nakedness, because when people are uncovering those dark things about them, they are naked, and people are afraid to be naked out of shame and fear. But again, you're a safe place with me. Is there anything you want to talk about? You have to have those conversations. You have to share, like we're doing now. Everyone won't share. The harvest is plenteous, but the laborers are few. There's not too many people that want to open up. But if you have the opportunity to, then be used, be led, be smart, ask permission though. Because you don't want to get into any of that, especially with minors and things like that. But be that safe haven. Know what those resources are. Know who you can refer them to. Another safe person, another person that's not going to have their business out in the streets, even though they are a professional. So you have to be careful with that too. So resources, just being there. A lot of times it's just being there, because some people, like you said, they won't get that help. It's too much. But if they see a little bit of light in you, then you be as much light as you can to them and help them as much as you can without exhausting yourself and your own resources, because it's heavy to deal to take on someone else's trauma too. And I have to be careful in that, because I want to save the world. I'm not Jesus. I have it in my mind that I'm going to save everybody. I'm going to lead this crusade and everybody is going to come. But the reality is everybody's not going to come. There will be casualties to whatever this life has to offer. And I just stand by them. I'm here. I'm here. Just know I'm a beacon of light for you. And if that's all I need to be in your life, then so be it. But I'm going to give you those resources first, and you take it. And I'll stay on you until it's, till I get the point where if you don't want to do it for yourself, if you don't want that healing, then I'll kindly step back. I wouldn't like it. I don't like it now when I have to, but such is life.
So I'm working on a book.
Come on now.
Huh?
I said, come on now.
So I'm actually working on 2 books. And I've been working on it for over a few years. But the one book, I'm not going to give too much away because I just don't want to give too much away, but it's definitely a guide for parents to see the warning signs and the signals of things that happen to people who have experienced trauma. For me, there has also been trauma within the church.
Oh, yes.
There's music ministers who pry on younger singers, who take them underneath their wings and show them things that they've never experienced before, and use the whole Big Brother phrase, which is why I hate that. And then after you use the Big Brother phrase, it's like you have that trust. Then your mom trusts because if they're a single parent, it's like it's a male figure in your life now, and the person goes to church, so why not hang out? And then once again, experiencing things that young man or woman should have never experienced at the young age. You know what I'm saying? So there's so much. And so for me, as a leader, my thing is not exposing. So I'm not messy. I would never say names. But my thing is educating parents. And when you're putting your children in situations, do your research. Pay attention to your child if anything changes, if attitude changes. Even if that young individual starts to act like that person he's hanging with, be very aware of that, because that can mean something. Not only are they looking up to that person, there may be something in that person that they already have. You know what I'm saying? So you just gotta be very, and ask direct questions. Like my mother is aggravating. She asks my son everything. She's like, "Did he do this? Did he touch you?" My mom, but she never did that with me. But I feel like my mom is way more. I think parents are way more aware about their grandkids other than their kids anyway. That's just a natural. Like my son gets away with murder. Things that he does, I would have got smacked. But that's just my own experience. But she said something else. Let me see if she's on point this time. I know you're talking about dark secrets in families. You're talking about relationships. You're also talking about relationships. Things like that happen in a lot of families, including mine. Oh, she's being honest. It's no secret to me. I learned to talk about it, and it surely helped. Well, Ma, I like that you said that. That's really cool. I'm not sure if I believe that, but I do appreciate you being real and having conversations probably with your sisters. But there are people within your family that you have not shared secrets with. I just found a secret out last week. So, but I love you, girl. You know I keep it real. You're my girl. Let's see what Mr. Carter said. Who are you telling? You cannot be a survivor for everyone. You need to save yourself first. Absolutely. And when you are a caring person and also like a providing person, you naturally put yourself on the back burner, which I would share with people not to do again. Don't do that. Make sure even when you're in love, you put yourself first. And put that person like 0.5 close to you, because you have to put yourself first in those situations. You absolutely, because you lose yourself. And then when you say if you get out of that situation, you don't know who the hell you are. So I agree with you on that. It takes so much energy to take on other people's mental trauma, very draining. Trust me, I know. You talked about that as well. Precious.
Yep, as a nurse, you know,
Mm-hmm.
hey, boundaries, 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 boundaries,
Right.
boundaries, and it's hard because
Yeah.
again, you see the need.
Yeah. Oh Lord. But I feel like this was a really good conversation. I definitely feel like on my end, me writing this book is, and it's like 60% done. I think I would be done with it if I wasn't in school. If I, because I've had so much time during this pandemic, like I could have been done with it. I've started it like 2013. I just so scared to finish it. But I keep on writing it now at least once a week, and it'd be like a paragraph or something like that. But I'm working on it. So I think for me, the result for me on this conversation is like I have to make sure that I am giving a resource to people who may be blinded by this, because even the best mom, even the best dad could be blind in some areas. So I don't blame my mom, nor do I blame anybody. Who's to blame? I can't blame. My mom was a bomb mom, off the chain. She is a bomb mom. She would do anything for me. I go home, it's like I'm went through a time zone and I'm back to being 14 years old. She treats me like a baby, and I enjoy it because I don't always get that. But you know, the book will serve as a guide. It will serve as a guide for those who just read and start seeing little things that happen, especially when it comes down to being in the church, because that is a whole nother thing I would not talk about. You better say that, son, my mom. Because the church is a whole nother issue, and I might actually do a whole brand new show about that one. Because the church is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But y'all know I love the Lord, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on within the church that you need to start being more aware and calling those things out, and being okay with losing a musician, being okay with losing a praise and worship leader, being okay with losing a youth pastor or a regular pastor, because those be the ones who be the offenders. And I think it's beautiful that you, Precious, that you are giving back to your community by being a mentor, because that also is that one-on-one that makes an effect in a person's life, and they can always remember you as they grow older. Because I remember my mentors, and those are people that I still reference at the age of 33.
Yep, and something else I wanted to say before we close out, and a lot of times the offender has an offender, and that offender had an offender too. So again, how do we go from here? How do we heal? So I would just say, for those that are watching, Heartland Family Services, you
Yes.
can also reach out to NAMI, NAMI, for mental health resources. You can, if you are employed, you can do employee assistance program and speak to a counselor. I actually went to Spence Counseling. There was a Christian counselor that I went to. So just know that there are resources for you. And Dr. Kreative, I think that your book is going to be the bomb, because even in speaking tonight, you're uncovering layers in your healing. So that'll help you close out your book. And then when you finish it, nobody's going to be able to tell you nothing. They can't tell you nothing now, but ain't nobody going to be able to tell you nothing with that doctor in front of your name.
Girls, don't get me excited. I'm so excited.
I'm trying to get excited too.
You gonna get one too. We both gonna be out here with this baby, okay? You're closer than me, but you got it, girl.
We getting there. I appreciate you. I really do.
I pray. I like to end my lives with a prayer. Is that all right? No prayer.
All right.
All right. Lord God, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for this wonderful conversation with my friend Precious. I thank you for allowing us to get some things off of our chest, and hopefully the stories that we shared become something that people can reference and look back on, and help and give them encouragement to get out of their situations. I'm asking for those who have done wrong to people that you heal and mentally and correct their minds. And Lord, I'm asking right now that you heal the people who have been offended, and allow them to express themselves during their situations and after their situations. And as they're adults, let them know that, you know, it's okay to express their feelings and their stories. Once again, thank you for this opportunity. We love you so very much. And thank you so much, Precious. Amen.
Amen.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. I don't know what I'll be talking about, but I'll post it. Love you.
Good night.
We're going to make it do what it do.
Do what it do.